happy to be
Here.
here too.
At this time, I'm going to ask Ashley Bright to come up and lead us in a word of prayer. If you don't mind, just come up here and hit the mic. That way it's recorded and everybody can hear. You'll have to turn it on. There you go.
Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:30 through 31. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Heavenly Father, we come before you, and we're so thankful, Lord, for the commissioners and the work that they do. Lord, give them strength today. Lord, give them wisdom through the power of the Holy Spirit. Lord, thank you for who you are in our lives, for guidance and for direction. And Lord, we lift up this day and the days ahead. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ashley.
All right, at this time, would you stand with us to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, YCC, you wouldn't mind coming up and presenting your presentation? I have to turn on your mic. There you go.
Light goes on.
Yeah, the light goes on.
Commissioners, thank you for having us. My name's Gary Lathrop. Been on the Youth Crisis Board for 35 years and served in all capacities. With me, I have Dave Holchheiser. He's been our very able executive director. We have board members with us. Adam Booth has been with First Interstate Bank. He's been on the board for, 15 maybe? And our CFO is Lisa Shoup. And we have Elise Campbell, she's representative down in the Wyoming legislature. Thank you for having us today. Youth Crisis Center started in 1982 under the auspices of Episcopal Church of the Diocese of Wyoming, and as it grew, it branched out. Dick Bresang was instrumental in getting it going. We observed approximately 25,000, believe it, Natrona County and Casper youth in the last 40 or so years. The bulk of those people are kids that are picked up with difficulties that can go to the crisis center or they can go to jail. And so it's been a great service. We also get kids whose parents have been killed in car wrecks, kids whose parents have just left, kids whose parents beat them. We get, as you guys well know, you folks, pardon me, you see almost every kind of tragedy there is. Youth Crisis Center is a short-term facility. We also have a group home in conjunction with it. The last several years, we have had a bridge program where judges will sentence these kids to the crisis center as an alternative to jail, which the county has helped fund. And we have currently and have been embarked for about 4 years on a program where we have therapists. We have two juvenile therapists, and they also do family counseling, and we believe that this helps to reduce recidivism and to help build a cohesive family unit. We have several new programs in the works, and in order to speed this along, I'll have the exec, Dave, speak about what's going on at the Crisis Center. Again, thanks for having us.
They have a presentation whenever Ms. Tracy's ready. Well, we'll just kind of go through that. We can get through a few of the first slides without seeing it. But Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure seeing you guys the last 2-3 years, and thank you for being able to see us this year as well. Through the presentation, I just want to go back through what we do, but also the budgetary request that we usually present every year. But also at the very end, I'd love to have a discussion with you guys about what's facing youth here in Casper right now, because it's a dramatic change in the last 2 years. We've seen some pretty significant violence, and I'd love to start a conversation with you folks because you'll be instrumental in maybe some system changes to help that. But currently, we still have our youth crisis shelter wing, which houses up to 10 at-risk youth at a time. Portion of that funding comes from DFS, portion of the city of Casper, portion of Natrona County, as along with other programs like the federal programs, the Runaway Youth Program. United Way does help us fund, along with some other private charities. Biggest thing with that right now is that there's a bunch of questions in regards to the federal funding right now. The grants have not opened up. We don't know when those are going to open up, and you can't really find any information about it. I know those grants are through HHS. So when we know more about that, we'll be happy to provide you guys some updates on that. But we're still waiting for a grant cycle to open up so that we can actually apply for that. Again, we have the group home wing, which houses up to 5 at-risk youth. Primarily, that is funded through DFS. They're our primary funding source. But in addition to that, with the additional funding that you guys have helped us with the last couple of years, we've been able to increase that in order to bring more kids that are court placed or court ordered through Natrona County in our what we call our bridge program. So that would be the court ordered youth program, and we can house up to 5 youth in addition to the 5 additional youth in the group home. And that's important because that gives us extra space in the crisis shelter, because our crisis shelter has been busy. We're seeing 8, 10, sometimes even above 10 kids. We're only allowed 10, but we, through variance, can have more than that. And we have actually 12 beds on that unit. So we're seeing a lot of kids. And so I just ask that you keep that in mind. These kids got nowhere to go. And jail is not a good option for them, if an option at all right now with the current judicial climate. The clinical wing, I do want to talk a little bit about that here later on in the presentation, but a proposed safe passages program might bring a residential treatment here to Casper, which we don't have. All of our kids have to go out of Casper to get residential treatment. But through this special program, where we're trying to find some seed funding through a special foundation, and I'll try to leave that foundation nameless at this point until we have any, if we are able to get a commitment, we'll let you know. But that would allow us to actually bring a residential treatment, which is much needed to Casper, instead of sending kids out. As we move on, again, we began in 1980, we started in 1982, but officially became YC in 1984. And we've served over 25,000 kids as a conservative estimate. So we're probably one of Casper's long-standing nonprofits that can really show that we're very valuable to this community and that we do quite a bit. Last 5 years, we've moved to a clinical model where we're really focusing more on mental health and substance abuse treatment. No longer do we really adhere to the juvenile justice model of penalizing kids and treat them as such. The most important is, you know, the clinical practices. Through that, we look at our strength-based approach. We look at trauma-informed care, motivational interviewing. These are all ways in which we fold that clinical process into how we actually deal with kids on a day-to-day basis and in their interactions. The trauma-informed care is huge because a lot of these kids come with trauma. And this helps our staff understand how to best work with those kiddos. So again, this is kind of it. This is, our budget request is just a continuation of last year, understanding the position that we know that the commission is in. We're asking for a continuation, from what we saw last year. Again, usually per year, the county has been very gracious and we have much appreciated your support over the many years. For the crisis wing, last year it was 50,000 and we're asking for that same, consideration if possible this year. Again, even though the county didn't bring as many kids this year with the sheriff's office, still, we've had over 49 placements plus the 64, plus the 14 placements takes us up to roughly 64. So when we look at that total cost, that 50,000 that you've given has helped us offset the 115,000 that it cost to have those kids in the community, from Natrona County. And that excludes from Mills, Evansville, and also the city. So that's really just the cost, for just the county part of the crisis shelter. So we've been very appreciative and requesting just the continuation from last year's numbers as well. So we move into the court order program, which I think is the bigger program that you guys saw value in 3 years ago or 2 years ago. This will be a third year if we do it. Is a continuation of the 118,625. What this allows is both district court and circuits courts to place youth in our facility, which allows them to avoid jail, but also allows them a time period between the court case in order to get them to treatment. A lot of times these kids will be with us for 45, 90 days, sometimes 120 days, awaiting treatment in order to go to like a St. Joe's, Teton Family Services, Cathedral Home, because there's just not enough spots throughout the state. And some of that is due to not only their capacity, but the functional capacity of like Torrington. They just don't have enough staff to open up more beds. And that's where I think we as a county would end up being better with our own residential. So I think we could have the staffing that we need to run our own residential center. So again, when you look at the numbers from last year, the tracking data, with the number of court-ordered kids, 90 court-ordered kids is what we're projecting through the end of this year. Actually, 108 youth, 90 as of June 30th, we're projecting to have 108 of those court-ordered youth with a total of 1,868 days of housing. With the money that you guys have helped provide us, the cost for those court-ordered kids, because that allows us to take that money and leverage it with all the other money we get. And really it's staffing that we need because we have to maintain ratio staffing for DFS certification. So the cost for housing a kid per day is really down to $63. That is super nominal compared to other facilities. And what I'll tell you is that money, even though it seems like it's not a lot per day, that's a huge amount in order for us to keep staffing in terms of the staffing ratios for DFS, because we have to maintain staffing ratios to maintain our licensing. So again, as we look at our total request, it will be the same from last year. Respectfully and humbly, we're asking for the 168,625 as part of our budget. The county commissioners have been crucial in helping us with our mission. And what I can say is you guys have really fallen through and have meant a lot to our facility and to these kids throughout Natrona County. And on behalf of those kids, you probably won't hear it from them, but you'll hear it from me. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. So I do want to update you what we're working towards. Our clinical wing, which is currently our unused wing. We have 8 beds in there that we want to try to bring online through a residential treatment program. And we are in process of working with a national foundation to see if they would be willing to provide us with 3 years seed funding to get this off the ground, to show proof of concept. And the proof of concept is simply this. Under DFS guidelines and rules, residential treatment centers have to be done all in one place, all under one roof, and cannot be cohorted with other groups like crisis shelters and group homes. Because of that, we don't qualify because we have a building that has all 3 wings together. But as part of that, also, you have to do your own clinical work and you have to do your own schooling. And our thought with CWCC and the school district is, why should we reinvent the wheel when if we do housing, it's best for us to do the housing and the supervision. CWCC would handle the clinical intensive outpatient treatment per day, which would be a 3 to 4 hour program that we would transport the kids to. And then the school district would do the educational portion of it for the rest of the day. So rather than one entity doing it okay, we want to take advantage of us doing what we do best, what CWCC does best, and what the school district does best. That is outside the model of DFS funding. So we would not qualify for DFS funding. However, our licensing with DFS would still qualify us as a group home, which allows us to utilize licensed beds we already have to accomplish an RTC program. We would just be entering into partnerships and cooperations in order to do that. So that's what we're currently seeking funding for. But that program, if we're able to find that 3-year seed funding for that, we believe that would be a game changer, because it would show other communities in Wyoming that this is a model that you could roll into practice right now with your current, if you have a community mental health center, if you have a willing school district, and you have a youth services organization like YCC. And it would accomplish the same things as an RTC. We would just do it, in our mind, we would do it at a much lower cost and much more effective. So that's the addition, and we would be calling that. So if you see anything coming out in the near future about Safe Passages, that's the program name that we're looking at, is Safe Passages. But again, it would be a residential treatment center for Casper, Wyoming specifically. So I wanted to present this to you. This is the 24-25 WYSA, which is the Wyoming Youth Services Association. This is snapshot data that we take at one particular point in time. We always do it in November. So every kid that is in congregate care of a WYSA member, we actually fill out this survey. And out of the 167 kids that were in the congregate care on November 6th of 2024, what I'll note here is that this is the first time in our survey history that every section has gone up. So of all 167 kids in our care, all of our care throughout the state, 86% have a mental health diagnosis. 58% had one or more prior failed placements, either with foster family or a family setting. 36% had attempted suicide or plan to attempt suicide in the near future. 80% had suffered some form of abuse. 34% suffered from sexual abuse. 49% had a personal history of substance abuse. Half the kids in our care had some form of substance abuse, and that's excluding tobacco. So alcohol and drugs, primarily drugs. 66% came from families with substance abuse problems. 47% came from families in which one or more parents had been in jail for an extended period of time. And this one we saw a major jump in. 86% had been prescribed some type of psychotropic medication. Those numbers are staggering when you read them. When I give community presentations, this is always the slide that I end with. Luckily today we've got another slide to go, but this really shows people the impact of what these kids are facing. I mean, over 3/4 of these kids have a mental health diagnosis of some kind, which makes it difficult for them. And when we talk about funding priorities and we talk about where some of the dollars should go, this is truly a population that's at risk. This is that vulnerable population. These are kids. And we're seeing them younger, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, we're seeing them a lot younger now. So much so that we may end up asking DFS to, look at the rules about age placement in the crisis shelter, because we're getting them younger, and we may have to go from age 10 down to age 9 just because of the number of kids we're seeing at those ages. So the last part of the discussion that we wanted to talk about is the at-risk youth, and I really truly want an opportunity to present some information and get your feedback, because I think this is very applicable to Casper especially. But current events here, I think everyone knows about the youth-on-youth violence and the homicides that have happened in just the last year and a year and a half. I had an opportunity to talk with one of our case managers the other day, and she brought something up, and I give her all the credit for this. She brought up that about prevention. She said, did you ever think about the kids that were here when those incidents happened? I said, no, I hadn't thought about that. She said, think about some of those kids would have been with those kids during that incident. We could have had more homicides. And because they were with us, they weren't with that select group of kids, which prevented them from being in that violence at that point in time. And I had never thought about that. But that's true. We had some kids that were run with those same group of kids that at one particular point in time, when that happened, they could have been part of that group as well. So I think that there's a lot of discussion in groups throughout Casper right now about what do we do? How can we prevent this? What program can we start up? And having been in law enforcement for many years, with the sheriff's office here, I can tell you that programs come and go. They start up, they go well, then they kind of die off. I think we all realize that. And what I'll tell you is that the violence that we've seen in the last 2 years, I don't think I've seen it this dramatic in the 25 years that I've been when I was in law enforcement. And I think, Jim, I don't know, it's crazy. But what I'll say is I think there now comes a time for a discussion about a systematic change. And what I've started talking to legislators about, and I'm extremely thankful Representative Campbell's here. I've had this discussion with her, but we talk a lot about parent rights at the state level and what parents have rights to their kids, and they have rights to know this, they have rights to know that. Well, that's absolutely true. The other side of the equation, though, is what responsibility parents have to their kids now. That, I think, is one of the missing points that we're missing in our system right now. When we talk about a family treatment court, there's places throughout this country who've rolled a program in like this, and this is just a conceptual discussion. But a lot of times we'll get parents that drop their kids off and say, you deal with them. They leave them. Or they go to DFS and DFS says, well, if you don't do this, we're going to take your kid. The parents is like, I'm okay. You can have my kid because I get to go do what I want. Where does the parent responsibility end, and how can we close that gap? Because in the system in Wyoming, for a kid to get the help that they need, they have to make a mistake and get into court. Then the courts take up the cause and they work hard at trying to help these kids, right? But how do we get to those kids before they get in trouble? Maybe we got to start looking at parent accountability and responsibility. Currently, the state statute doesn't have a statute regarding delinquency of a minor, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Maybe that's something that we need to put on the table. Maybe and this is all just throwing out discussions of how maybe we can help. But what about an opportunity for the state to create a pilot program here in Natrona County, a pilot court program similar to the mental health substance abuse courts, to where maybe charges go in abatement and you make sure that families go through the help that they need. But there's going to need to be some triggers in order and things to be put in place statutorily to have that happen. Again, it's just a concept. It's just a different way of thinking about it, because my fear is that without forcing parents into some type of responsibility, when the kids get the help that they need, they're going to go right back to the home and the environment they came from and undo everything that's happened. And I think a lot of us can see that and understand it, or have even dealt with that. So how do we begin to think about changes maybe at the family level and more teeth in the system to try to encourage them? Because once they're in the system, there's lots of help before it ever came to any before it came to any level of any incarceration, anything like that. There's plenty of help there. Sometimes, and I think most times, parents just need the help and guidance in order to get them there, to show them that help is there. So I think that's truly where we're failing these kids, is that we're not treating the family as effectively as we can. And parents are not taking their responsibility like they should be doing. Because you can have all the parent rights that you want, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But we also need to be responsible and accountable for our children too, as parents. That's my responsibility to my kids. So I need to be responsible for them. And maybe we need to think about it that way. I'd love to have a discussion if you guys have any information or any questions, but that is a discussion. It's just not, I'm trying to get it out there so that we can start thinking about a different way to approach this.
Dave, I think YCC is doing an excellent job, and the limited resources that you have and everything else. You're one of the few groups that I really feel like the county is getting more bang for the buck than we're putting into it. What are your sources of revenue right now? And I mean, because if we can help out with other things too, as far as reaching out to other groups and trying to get them to assist you as well, not just from us, but from other groups as well. You can give me some ideas. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, certainly our funding comes from different sources. I think our state funding is we're around 50 to 60%. About 20%, 25% comes from local governments, including City of Casper and Natrona County. And then the rest is made up of private charities, private foundations. The Hughes Foundation has been amazing to work with. They have been great. They're out of the Hughes Charitable Foundation. They have been great. They have really been extremely good to us. The Natrona Collective Health Trust has been very good to us as well. So those are the two big ones that we've worked with, and then the federal grant is a big one. But again, that one we can't guarantee with, just simply because we don't know where my understanding is this legislation for the runaway homeless youth programs has been around since the 80s or even the late 70s. But who knows where it's going, because we haven't heard anything as to where they're going and if they're going to release the new grant cycle or not. What I'll say is that I think that there's a lot of donor fatigue in terms of a lot of foundations are doing a lot. They're taking up a lot of the slack. And I think some of those foundations are starting to realize that they've got to start pulling back. And I think we're starting to see that pullback. At the same time, you're starting to see some of that. I mean, you guys, the county commissioners now in Natrona County have some legislation they have to deal with real estate taxes. I mean, that's a real thing that we have to deal with and that you guys have to look at, and we understand that. But what I will say is this, is that when it comes to nonprofits, my time in law enforcement, my time doing this position, my time in the community, everyone's really quick at cutting nonprofits because it's an easy thing to do, right? They can find other money. Well, it's getting tough. And the other thing that I will say about nonprofits is in the state of Wyoming, we don't have human services. Human services in our communities are done by nonprofits. Without us, where are we going to place these kids? Without the CAP Center, where are they going to do forensics interviews? Without the Mercer Family Resources, where are they going to do some of the great work they do with educational classes and therapy and family therapy? It's not like the city of Denver or the city of Boston, Massachusetts, or New York that has these mechanisms of human services built in. The human services in the state of Wyoming, no matter what community you're in, is built on the backs of nonprofits. But when it comes time for a funding crunch, those are always the folks that get cut first, which means that we're cutting those critical human services in our community, which it can hurt. It hurts people when the people that we serve. So.
Any questions? Commissioner Coates?
Just one general question. Is there the data that you provided with the percentages, is there an overlay in that where you could see common trends among all the individual criteria that, the 80% of, the 80% to 30% is there an overlay that combines those?
Going back to this particular
Yes.
one, I think the biggest thing that overlays that is we're seeing, when you look at that, the mental health and the substance abuse is a big part of that. What I'll say about a lot of this data is that when we talk about a single issue like mental health diagnosis, a lot of times these kids, even kids, will come to us with not only a mental health diagnosis, but a substance abuse disorder combined, which makes their outcomes even more difficult. And when you look at the family, see that they don't take in consideration the family. There's a little bit of family in this particular slide, but there's not as much. But when you look at the family dynamic, the family struggles with mental health and substance abuse, and it's oftentimes generational. So when they come to us, it's tough because we have to contend with all the situations here, but we also have to try to break that cycle. And it's the cycle that I think we've got to think outside the box. And that's why I wanted to briefly have that discussion about maybe a system forward to holding parents more accountable and a way to do that, because without fixing the parent part of it, I think that's really a struggle. I think that's one of our biggest struggles, because there are some parents that if you take their kids or take custody of their kids, they're okay with that.
What do you
And
think this?
that's not good.
What do you think this safe passage is going to cost? I know you said you're looking for some seed funding for that. What's your estimate on that?
Well, when we did the numbers, I don't want to, I'll give you the numbers, but we're not asking for that. In order to do a 3-year pilot program, we need to have about 587,000 a year. Our goal with that 3-year program is to do proof of concept to the state of Wyoming and say, look, our idea of a residential treatment center in this fashion, where it's not, everyone doesn't need to be in the same building, and we can create these partnerships of well-rooted community partners. I mean, the school district is here permanently. CWCC is here. We're here. Let us do what we do best. And that 587,000 is nominal compared to what it normally takes to put a kid in an RTC. Really, the cost there is to cover the food, the housing, the transportation, the staffing. Because the other portions of it, the school's already covered. That's another reason why we're looking at the partnership, is these things are covered. CWCC already has a program in place and has a funding mechanism in place. So really what we're paying for in that limited scope with these kids is really basically another group home at a crisis shelter cost, because we want to show that this program can be successful, and it gives an opportunity to kids that not only ones that come to us from court, but maybe some kids that before they get there, we can help them out and get them. But the other thing that program allows us to do is that we're not taking them out of the community, because when they're out of the community, it makes it that much harder for the families to get therapy too. The idea behind family therapy is to have them all together and to work through that together. But when a kid's in Torrington and a parent has hardly any resources to get to Torrington, how can they have family therapy successfully? It's hard to do over telehealth. Any counselor or the counselors that we work with will tell you that that's effective, but not as effective as it could be in terms of having them at home, getting them the therapy that they need.
Thanks.
I have a question.
Commissioner Laird.
You do a great job up there. I'm happy you're doing it. Gary's been on your board since the beginning of time, I think, and I'm glad he's doing that too. The thing, when I hear you say holding the parents accountable, I'm thinking, how do you hold a person accountable who's in jail, on drugs, has no job, no education, and is a child? And what can you do? When you say hold them accountable, what exactly are you referring to there?
I think that's a great question. And I think that's where this is in the preliminary stages of what does it look like. You know, when you have if you have a parent in that particular situation, maybe it's not that parent that is the one that we would be looking at. Maybe it's a custodian at that time. Maybe it's someone that just, you know, I think there are a lot of dynamics like that you mentioned, and Commissioner Laird, I appreciate you bringing that up, but there are a lot of things to think about like that. But ultimately,
What would you do? What could you do to a parent? I'll give you an example. See, I think it was 1974, I ran for county attorney, and one of the things I ran on was these juveniles that commit these crimes at night, maybe the parent should serve the jail with them. There was an outrageous cry. I got beat so bad I never wanted to get in politics again for making that statement. So when I hear hold them responsible, I don't know how you're going to do it, number one, and so I was just curious if you had some idea about how to do it.
I think some of the ideas that I've kicked around just from the law enforcement perspective, from my time in investigations and so forth, I look at some of the accessory options that are there built within the law that certainly contributing to the delinquency of a minor, I think could be a strong case.
You put the parent in jail and he can't help the kid anyway.
I don't think you look at jail. I think that the charges become an abatement like they would be in a mental health treatment court, to where any type of incarceration would be at the judge's discretion based on contempt, like a contempt charge. But if they're able to successfully complete the program, all those charges go away, just like it would be in a mental health or the substance abuse treatment courts. The idea is there that you set those charges aside as they go through this program. The idea within the program is simply that, hey, parents, there's these options. Right now, you don't want to choose the option. Now you don't have a choice. You need to go to family counseling. We need you to go here. We need you to go here. It's rather than giving them the choice, which most of them don't take, it's now a choice that has been made for them, that there is an incentive. We're incentivizing them to do it, which the incentive is we set these charges aside and eventually they go away. But let me give you a great example. The state of Michigan just recently convicted 2 parents for felonies for their child going into a school and killing multiple kids. The court successfully charged the parents, and they were found guilty.
I always thought that that was a way that the government had of absolving itself from other inadequacies, such as not funding these kind of programs. So they go punish some parent for some crime like that the parent couldn't have, probably in their condition, have foreseen.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was the answer. I think that was some politicians who wanted to get the heat off them for not having proper security at the school.
I think you're
That
right.
when I was on the city council here. It was a problem getting,
Yeah.
we had one councilman vote against school safety. And we ended up hiring 8 police officers and bought police cars and stationed them around, and it works. But the one thing that bothers me, I feel sad about, is you have that one wing up there, and you still haven't got money to run the damn thing. And that thing needs to be opened.
It does.
Won't the foundation give you the money to open that?
The Natrona Collective Health
Yeah.
Trust? No.
They got money.
No, we fall under a certain grant guideline for them, and we
Gotta
apply for
change
those
the
grants
guideline,
every 2
because that
years.
thing would help the children. I'm gonna tell them that myself.
I was gonna say, that's way above my purview.
It's
But
not-
what
it's not
I'll
above my purview.
what I'll tell you is that this challenge came from the gentleman sitting right next to me when I was going through interviews. He said, what can we do to open that wing? And that's always been on my mind. What can we do to most benefit the kids in our community? And I do want to
Be
just,
up there to talk to Beth Worthen, and by God, demand some money. And he could say, I asked him to go up there. And I bet that if this commission really goes up and sees your operation, that'll get you some more help, because you're helping children.
they're the most innocent ones here in terms of, where they come from. Kids are not asked of where would we like to be, where would we like to grow up. They're just put in a situation with their parents. And they try to do their best is what we find with our kids. But to go back to the family treatment court, I think the whole idea behind it isn't, I think the penalty part of it is a very small percentage of those parents. I think a big percentage of the parents that could potentially be in that pilot program are ones that just really need that nudge, and that, hey, we need you to go here. We need you to go here, because the resources are here. We just need to convince them to go get it, go get the help. And maybe it's just a judge saying, hey, I need you to do this. So, but
Any other questions?
You know what kids need? They need to be loved. And they have parents who can't do it. The parent would like to do it. They don't know how to do it because they didn't get it themselves.
I 100% agree with you. Saw it a lot. In my time with the sheriff's office, I think many of us that served did. We saw it every day sometimes. And it's tough. But what I'll tell you about the Youth Crisis Center is that when I was with the sheriff's office, when I took a kid from a home in protective custody and I took them to the Youth Crisis Center, A, I knew they were going to be treated well. B, I knew that they were going to get fed. C, they were going to be in a warm place with a nice bed. And the last thing is the staff was going to treat them well. And that's the truth.
You know what impacted me the most when I came up there that day?
What's that, sir?
When you showed me the refrigerators full of food. And how it made those kids feel. Sorry, but this bothers me a lot.
Our food program is a foundational piece of what we do. We don't ever want a kid to come to us and think that they're not going to get fed. So when they come to us, they eat well, they eat good food. We're the benefactor of many donors from the 4-H livestock sale. We've had to build a freezer out back so that we can keep a lot of that good meat for the year. But we have a great kitchen manager and a great kitchen staff that feeds these kids well. So when they come to us, that's the last thing we want on their mind. In fact, we have kids that come back to us and just so for a few days so they can get some good food. And we make sure that they're fed, because that is food insecurity is a huge issue with kids in our county and across the state. So you're right. It's huge.
We got any other questions? Again, I want to thank you guys for what you are doing up there. It's very important. And Dave, I agree with you. I mean, I've seen a lot of changes the last 40 years ago. 40 years, 45 years, I guess, is when I started law enforcement. So there's been a lot of changes since then. And I don't know what the answers are. I definitely know what the problem is.
Just got to start thinking outside the box. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Dave, if you would stay in touch with us, though, if the state, whatever happens with the state, let us know. Yes. Good. Thank you.
We do need to make an amendment to the agenda because Michael Brown wasn't able to make it in this afternoon. So at this point on, we'll skip that portion and go to Deputy Legal, County Attorney. And
Are we ready? Good,
yeah, we're ready. You're
Okay.
on board. And
good afternoon.
Commissioner Nick Layson, hold on a minute. Commissioner
Sorry.
Nick Layson, did you have? No, we were going to talk about drafting. We don't have one. Basically, what they want to do is come before us to give us an idea of what we were looking at to develop an MOU and what it was going to be included in that. So that's what that was. So, yeah, we do not have one to look at this point in time. So, okay.
I have a lot on my list, so I plan on talking faster than I usually do. So hold on to your seats.
You have
For-
some extra time.
I'll try to speak more slowly. So first, I wanted to thank everyone that has reached out to my office, which right now is just myself, whether it was the city attorney's office or the county, other county attorneys' offices who have called me, or whether it's been internal within the courthouse, and thank them for all of their help and patience. And the next update, just to update on Title 25, those are going well. Not everyone is comfortable or likes changes or transitions, but Ms. Ostberg is doing a great job. They're being done correctly. With respect to PRISM, we will meet with our attorney on June 3rd. Let's see. We are working on several policies that take effect July of 2025. 2 of them are on my update here or on the agenda. We are also reviewing the contracts for the contract attorneys, which isn't anything unusual or out of the ordinary. It is budget time, and so of course, we're looking at numbers. with respect to pending land projects, or I guess road projects, you would say. We are waiting for some maintenance records from Bates Creek, which Mr. Hagler's on top of. And then with respect to Squaw Creek, and it's my understanding there will be construction on Squaw Creek this summer or sometime soon.
It'll be next year.
Oh,
It'll be
okay.
next year because we don't have all the survey.
Okay.
complete.
Well, I knew we were waiting for IME.
Yeah.
And I do have a meeting with Mr. Hagler tomorrow regarding those two, just to make sure we're on the same page. And then Gary Dome, I'm also meeting with, I forget Paul's last name, our engineering firm we hire, regarding Gary Dome. And Mr. Hagler will be there as well. We are working, I know we've had a lot of questions about the concealed carry new statute, so to speak. We are working on that. And then I mentioned this only, there's a reason why I mentioned this. So the legislature declared the second Wednesday Wyoming Wednesday. And government employees may wear brown or gold. And the reason I mention that is because there are other commissions that are doing that for uniformity. So I just wanted you guys to know you have an option on our meeting days to go ahead and wear brown and gold with your other commissioners. And let's see, the columbarium was installed yesterday or this week. It looks really, really good. I've only seen pictures. I don't know if it's functional yet, if they have more to do with it, but I know it was installed. And hold on here. With respect to the short-term lease with the city, I did yesterday receive a final draft, so to speak, from Mr. Nelson. I have not had a chance to review it, but it is on the agenda for 6/3, and I will get that out to you all when I get a chance, and I haven't looked at it either. And then with respect to the scuttlebutt and all the hubbub and talk about the lawsuit regarding voter registration, we have not been served yet, so there's nothing, I can't really comment on it, but it is out there. And it is in federal district court under 1983. And with respect to, there was a question earlier during my budget session, or my budget update, I guess, from Commissioner Coates regarding a statute that allows for the state to essentially chip in for salaries. That is correct. However, I reviewed the statute and it's prefaced with pursuant to legislative appropriation. And to my knowledge, I did not go back and read the supplementary budget bill for this session. To my knowledge, that was not passed. I did not read every word of it. And if it was, we didn't know about it, and it's not in the budget. Not that I guess there's not time to put in the budget. So that is true, but with that stipulation. And there's other statutes similar for the Department of Corrections and the AG's office, but it's all pursuant to essentially the budget. And let's see. With respect to the Wellsprings lawsuit, we answered, and it's just still in the early stages. Not much more there. And I think that's it, unless someone else has any questions.
Go ahead, and then I'll follow up.
Lita, would you check with some of your county attorney peers and see which counties get reimbursement or historically have gotten reimbursement? And I'd be specifically curious about Laramie County since it has the district attorney slash appointed county attorney situation similar to Natrona County.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a question before I jump in? Okay. On the concealed carry,
Yes.
there are the change in, obviously, in the statutes. There's very limited amount that the county can actually enforce or do in
Correct.
regard to that. And those are the areas that we will look at for employees only. The statute is very clear as far as what we can do with the general public and what we can't do with the general public. There have been some questions that have been brought up that we need to look at a little bit more as far as fairground and what areas they can actually limit that, because they do have sporting events that have alcohol associated with it, and that is one of the exceptions that's in there. But as far as the employees go, there's very limited as far as what the county can actually do. We do have some requirements that we can implement, and we have discussed those. The one thing that we do want to make sure that everybody knows is that you will have to have a concealed carry permit as an employee to be able to carry. That is one of the restrictions that is specifically listed in there. And with that, if anybody has any other questions or anything about that, I did just want to address that. We are working on it. We're looking at it. That has to be implemented no later than July 1st of this year, and we're trying to get some of the bugs worked out so that everybody has a chance to look at it and all the employees have a chance to see it and sign off on it prior to that point.
Why does an employee have to sign off on it?
All the sign off is saying is that they read the policy. That's all it amounts to. It doesn't say that they're going to carry it. It doesn't say that they're not going to carry. All it says is that they have read the policy and they know it's there. That's all it amounts to.
Thank you.
So
And we do have the other policy we're working on, and it is listed. It's hard to get all the lists straight, but with respect to some individuals or some counties or government entities are referring to it as use of sex designated restrooms. Some are referring to it as, public, protecting privacy in public places. I know, say that fast. But in any event, that is in your packet. It did not go in the public packet because it is attorney-client and it's a draft. But that also would become effective July 1st, 2025. And the policy that I used, I worked with the library on, so it's not exactly for us, but it's easily tweaked for all of us. So I'm happy to discuss that on the June 3rd hearing, or if anyone has any questions about it right now. I have talked with Garrett as well as at the department head meeting regarding signage, so that's in the works. And then I did forget one item with Prism. Just today, our attorney received the copies of the lease extensions, and those were forwarded to you on our break. And I have not received the other email answer to our other question. But with respect to those lease extensions,
okay, and I looked at all those when we had a break, and those all show that there is a request for renewal for each of those specific locations at the end of Coach Road or up there in that general vicinity. And that is something that if we want to discuss that now, or what's the commission's pleasure?
I have not seen the letter that you all drafted, so I don't have a copy. I haven't seen it unless I missed it in the packet. But I will tell you, and it was in the email I sent, our attorney had some specific suggestions and or legal advice, and obviously we can't go into that right here, but it's in the email. And so I need to check, and he needs to check and make sure the letter complies with A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
if that's the case, then we need to discuss it
Yeah, I'd
under
rather hear the legal.
litigation during our executive session.
Right,
So,
I'd rather hear the legal before we
Yeah.
actually have the
Okay.
discussion. Right?
so,
That's all I have. That was fast. Unless you all have any other questions.
not hearing any at this point in time. I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session for Wyoming Statute 16-4-405, associated subparagraphs. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Nicolason, seconded by Commissioner Milne. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? So moved. We are now in executive session.
Raising
All right, we are back in regular session, out of exec. Zach, do we have a motion for any of the discussion that we had during exec?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we have legal counsel prepare a request for proposals on potential contracts.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and motion by Commissioner Nicolason and a second by Commissioner Milne. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I have another motion. I would make a motion that legal counsel prepare a letter regarding the State Land Board, the Office of State Lands, and specifically that we request they deny a renewal of the Prism gravel leases.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Nicolason, a second by Commissioner Coates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. Okay. Do we have any other business at this point in time?
I would make a motion to get the proper paperwork, which I think somebody's been working on, because I do think that Coates Road needs to be put under certain restrictions with weight and time of usage, and that we have a hearing for that matter and have it decided on by the commission as to whether we're going to do that. And I would like to see it done while all this other stuff is going on and lawsuits are grinding around and different things are happening.
Do we have any other discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I have one other thing. It's just brought to my attention today by Advanced Casper that they are seeking a letter of support. No, I'm sorry. In addition to the letter of support that we did, a resolution of support for the application to the Wyoming Business Council under the Business Ready Community Grant and Loan Program. That we basically provide a resolution to support that that application. Unfortunately, it was just brought to their attention Friday that it was needed, and it was just brought to my attention today, and I'm going to forward it to the commission. There's a draft resolution, but unfortunately time is of the essence on it. The request is that it be done on or before June 3rd. So I think that if we can at least as individuals look at it and have communications amongst ourselves and council, it'd be appreciated.
Commissioner Nicolason, hold on to those thoughts. We did have a motion from Commissioner Laird, and that's what I was asking for additional comments on. So,
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Laird, I apologize. I didn't realize that
so
was.
yeah,
I said it kind of in
Yeah.
a low
And then
voice.
he
didn't
said it.
hear
He let it. I let you talk, but I just want to bring us back on subject. So that was a motion, and I was opening it up for discussion.
And you just let
In
me
a
go
second.
on forever.
Well, you know.
Okay. Anyway, sorry, Commissioner Laird.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Coates.
Commissioner, could you clarify what you were asking?
I want to, I think you've been working on a resolution. Am I correct?
Correct.
And it has to do with Coates Road, and it has to do with dealing with the traffic on Coates Road and the weight restrictions on Coates Road. Am I right?
It has to do with the health, safety, and welfare of roads in the Natrona County area. in
So
general.
that's the overall theme.
Yes.
It does have to do with the health, safety of the roads, the dirt roads, especially in Natrona County. And so my motion includes that. I want to have, I want to have that completed. I want to make these roads as safe as possible for our residents. And I'm needing a second on the motion. So I'm asking somebody who cares about the residents that are affected by those roads to second it.
Commissioner Mill?
I don't know if this is the proper point in time, but I'd like to change that motion a little bit.
Why don't you, instead of, what would you like to have me do to that motion?
I would recommend if you make a motion to have a hearing next
June
meeting, June 3rd, to have Mike come in here, present information on the road structure, and to review Commissioner Coates' resolution. That's what I'd suggest, is just make a little,
Withdraw my motion, I'll second that motion.
I said I would. I didn't say I was making that motion there, sir.
Well, say you make the motion.
Oh, fine, I make the motion.
I second the
Would
motion.
that give you enough time for
For a vote.
the study or looking
See,
at that road,
let's see
Mike?
who wants to help the people of this county.
It's just a motion to have a hearing with Mike
On
on
June,
Coates
on
Road,
June 3rd.
its structure, and on Commissioner Coates's proposed resolution.
For the safety, for safety.
Stop right there.
Thank you.
Okay.
I second it.
All right.
Okay. So for discussion, I'd ask Mike, who's in the audience, would that give you enough time for June 3rd to be able to have a decent discussion on Coates Road?
She can take you out after the meeting. We'll do it. We'll put you first on the meeting that afternoon.
Finally be 65.
You're probably feeling a little gypped right now. I found out that you can join AARP at 18. 18 years of age. 18 now.
AARP at age 8.
Yeah.
50.
Well, it's 18 now.
Michelle, did you get what you needed on that for the motion? Okay. All right, we have a motion. We have a second by Commissioner Laird. Do we have other discussion on this? Okay. Well, at this time, I would,
Vote.
yeah, we're going to vote.
You can vote.
We need to vote, and that's what we're going to do at this point in time. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Okay, so we will do that. Continue on the resolution, and we'll bring that forward, and we'll have a hearing that night on June 3rd to discuss that for our vote. So, okay. All right. Commissioner Nicolason, I believe you have another motion. You can remember what it was at this point.
Well, to say it more concisely, Advanced Casper has forwarded a draft resolution of support authorizing submission of application to the Wyoming Business Council for a grant. This would relate to the PRISM project.
Wait, to the what? Just thought I'd catch that before we got any further.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Michelle. With respect to the Radiant program. So I will forward that to everyone. And if we could act on it before June 3rd, no later than June 3rd, I think that would be necessary and appropriate given the deadline of the Wyoming Business Council.
I have a question, Mr. Nicolason, if that's okay.
Go ahead. Oh, wait. Yep.
Okay.
Commissioner Laird.
So I would like to give the public a chance to appear and discuss if they support us doing that. Especially the city that's involved. So they have a chance to come in here and tell us whether they would like us to give that support. I'd like to know what they think about it. So I don't know what else I need to say, because it wasn't a motion on Mr. Nicholas's part.
I do believe that we can actually look at something, we can work through legal on how we do this, and if we choose to do this, we could ratify it the next meeting.
I apologize, Mr. Commissioner or Chair. If you all want the public comments, then a special meeting would have to be held. If you don't, then perhaps tonight you can amend the agenda and there's just put it on the agenda. I'm not sure what you all want. Sure. So those are the options, and then of course the ratification. I have not had a chance to look at it. It came in at 2:30. I've been down here since then, so between now and 5:30, where I can look at it. But Nichelle did do some tweaking, so she's good at that in the first look at it.
Any other discussion on that? Did Commissioner Nicholas, did they give you a time frame of when they have to have? Yeah, I wish they would have. I know they just found out, but it would have been nice if they would have given us a little bit more. So,
What I said is we have to answer to the public. They don't, and if they don't give it themselves time, I don't know what to say. But I like to hear what the public has to say before I do something like that.
Mr. Mill,
Will we be able to, once we receive the email from Commissioner Nicholas and have a chance to review it, will we be able to do a email specifically directed only to you so that we don't have off-site discussion on this, right? Meeting or whatever.
Sure.
with the group
Okay.
text or group email thing going on, and be able to come to a consensus that way. And then if it is in a firm, come the third, just ratify that decision, but be able to have that letter or that resolution provided to them prior to that meeting. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to get
It
at?
does, but I'm not sure then how we have public comment. Are you having a special meeting in between
I'm
there?
not, we've received public comment, we still are receiving
Okay.
public comment. We just got some email today. So it's not like we're in a vacuum here. We've already given a letter of support for that economic development area, not specific to Radiant, but to the development of that area. And I think that's what they're asking for. I haven't seen the letter, so I'm assuming that's what they're asking for is just a resolution of that letter of support we've given to that development. So what I'm asking basically is can we do something like that to either meet with all the standards and meet with all the administrative rules and statute requirements while meeting with that time frame to get that resolution to them, as we are, like I said, we are still receiving public comment regardless of having a meeting. People are sending emails, are calling, stuff. So we are hearing from them. But would we be able to, there is a method of being able to meet this deadline, right?
Yes.
Okay. That was a long question for a little answer.
If you all want to review the resolution that they proposed, that Michelle thankfully went through a first draft and made note of some wording and different issues. I believe Michelle sent that out. If you all want to look at that, and then you could each individually email me.
And then you could let us know as a group which
Yes.
direction it went.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
I'm going to seek clarification from Advanced Casper on line and on content. Try and get a little more information, and I will forward that information with the resolution. I expect tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
And we can look at that and reply independently to our council. Okay.
Jeez, that was wasn't it?
Yes, Commissioner Milne, thank you.
Okay, have we got anything else we need to discuss at this point in time? We've got a little bit of time for our next meeting. Why don't we go ahead and start out with just a round table? Something we haven't done, we haven't had time to do for a while. Commissioner Nicolason, you want to start us out?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciated the budget. I appreciated the folks coming in for our budget sessions. You know, I was impacted by YCC's message and mission. I think they're doing a great job. We're going to have some challenges. I know this is more commissioner comment than commissioner roundtable, but I'm trying to buy a little time while I think about some of the other stuff that we've been involved in. So we'll see how things go. We, you know, Tammy had some good information that we don't have that many appeals in the assessor's office for property tax. I went to, as you did, I went to part of the WCCA meetings last week, and I thought that was well attended. I also went to the Wyoming Workforce Development Council meeting. I've been appointed to that. That was in Riverton on Wednesday and Thursday, and it was interesting to me that there are a number of programs through the state of Wyoming Workforce Services that can help employers who may want to hire folks but don't have money, including in the internship arena, that the funding is available. We also toured the Job Corps site, which is a super impressive facility, one of the best in the country. We saw we heard from their manager. He flew in or the operations manager flew in from Detroit, and it's something that currently is there's proposal from the federal government to stop funding of it, which I think would be pretty a travesty. They bring kids in from all the country, train them here, and then they go into basically the oil field and other industries. A lot of them stay in the state of Wyoming. So it was good trying to get a little up to speed on Workforce Development Council. And if there are questions about what that organization does or some of the services Workforce Development or Workforce Services provides, you guys can get in touch with me offline.
Mr. Coates?
Just briefly, follow up, ICC does do an amazing job, and our youth violence is definitely increased as we have not experienced it before in Natrona County. And I was taken aback over the last few weeks at how hard our law enforcement's been working, multiple shootings. So I just can't express how grateful I am to have the law enforcement representative of all agencies within Natrona County and the work they do. Thanks.
Commissioner Laird?
So I think that, I feel that unnecessary delay by the commissions going on the Parks Board. I believe that we should complete the interviews, and we should, I think Mr. Coates has resigned from the Parks Board, so there's an opening. And we've interviewed some people, and we have some people in mind, I think, and we have some other people who are yet to be interviewed, but I think that we owe it to the public to get this Parks Board completed. And that we should put the public's desire for that ahead of our own desires. I want to discuss this. I don't know if we're going to discuss it in the next meeting, a little later, but I hope we do, because we have to have staggered terms here, so we have to get some people appointed and be given their term, and so that they are staggered, and get this project moving. It's a big project, and I think we have good people that want to be on this board, and probably more than we need even. But gentlemen, this thing just shouldn't take this long. And with that, I'm going to sit back and enjoy myself by turning off my microphone.
Commissioner Mill?
Excuse me. Yeah, I appreciate all the work that has gone into this from the county clerk and her staff and our boss. I really, really do appreciate it. Without you guys putting this together for us, we'd be lost. So, yeah, awesome job. Really do appreciate it. Also want to just kind of give my appreciation to WCCA for all their work on the numbers and everything that comes out of the state, and how we really rely on them quite a bit for those numbers to help guide our budget process. As far as anything else, I don't really, I don't really have anything for this portion of the round table. Maybe a little something later tonight.
I have asked each of the commissioners to look at their schedule and figure out when we could set up some time apart so we could start doing some more interviews. That's something that we do need to do. We've got some positions that are coming open on some of our boards that we have to get filled, or else we won't have a quorum. And we need to get those interviews out of the way as soon as possible. We have some vacancies right now, either due to people leaving because we hired them, or medical reasons, or other reasons. And we do need to get those positions filled, so we do have those completed. I do believe that that needs to be a priority for us. We don't want to get into the position where we don't have enough people to actually hear those cases that come before them. So that is something that is a top priority that we need to work on. So I just want to reiterate to each of the commissioners to please get back with me. Let's set some times. I don't want to do long sessions. I would rather do relatively short sessions where we're doing 2 to 3 hours max at a time, so we can concentrate on it and focus on the candidates that we have in front of us. And so, yeah, if you guys want to do it right now and let us know. I mean,
I think I'm good Monday and Tuesday of next week.
I'll be fine those days too.
Monday and Tuesday. How about yourself, Jim?
And hopefully not all day, both days.
No,
like
no,
half a
no, no,
day.
no, half a day. I'm thinking like 3 hours.
We have a full day and a half.
But
We don't
but
have to do,
we're-
yeah, we don't have to do them all right now. We can do, yeah. And so Monday and Tuesday, I can't.
Monday's a
I can't-
holiday.
I
I'll
can't do
remote
'em.
in. I'll remote in.
I was thinking like 3 hours on Monday and maybe 3 hours on Tuesday. So,
Me too. I mean, especially if it's gonna be 3 hours.
so Tuesday. Is it, I mean, if it's going to be an open meeting, if it's on a weekend, if it's on a holiday, we can't really do that very well. That is a problem.
Parking lot downstairs.
Yeah, that's what we'd have to do, and I don't think that'd be very viable, just knowing seeing what the projected weather is for next week. I don't think that would probably be a good idea.
I think
Tuesday.
that's-
Tuesday. No, let's do Tuesday, and let's just priority right now. We need to look at our candidates for the plan and zoning. We need to look at our candidates for the collective health trust, and then we can set some other dates. But those are kind of the ones that I'm looking at. Tuesday afternoon. But,
And are these gonna be 20-minute interviews? I mean, can we
yeah.
compress them just a little bit?
Yeah.
20-minute back to back to back to back.
Start at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. That work for everybody? Huh? I would prefer them being broke out by boards if we can. So to start with, it would be planning and zoning and collective health trust. I know we have more that are on the collective health trust that have applied so far. Yes. Yeah.
Like 5 or 6 for the collective?
There's more than that now.
5 or 6 for parks?
Well, no, we'll do planning and zoning. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Let's get those done on Tuesday. And
You gonna be there or not?
Have them answer those questions that they're always stacked up in advance. Sit there and read questions to them that they can answer in advance.
so,
Michelle, Mr. Chairman, maybe they can plan to be present 15 minutes before their slotted time, so that if we are moving ahead, if Commissioner Laird allows us to move ahead expeditiously, then maybe they turn into 15 minutes each, but setting
Yeah.
it for 20,
yeah.
tell them to be here 15 minutes before their allocated time.
I can see the collective health trust going a little bit faster. No, well, I mean, relatively speaking, because planning and zoning is always a little bit more complicated, but yeah, we can do that. I agree with that. So, okay, so we'll shoot for 1 o'clock, starting at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, and moving forward with that. And then we can figure out some other times for some of the other boards that we have out there. But that'll at least get us a good start for moving forward on getting some of these positions filled. So, okay, anything else? Okay, then we will move into the agenda for our regular meeting starting tonight. We have a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Coates, second by Commissioner Laird. All in favor?
Real quick,
Discussion.
just a quick discussion point. I completely 100% agree with Sheriff on recommending Mike Cavalier for the Natrona County Emergency Manager Coordinator. He's been doing a heck of a job already over there, and he's got my full support as far as in that position. So while it is on consent agenda, I just wanted to make sure that he knows that he's got support out there.
And I'm gonna follow up and agree 100% with Commissioner Mellon on that. I've known Mike for a long time. He's gonna do a good job. So, okay. With that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. At this point, we'll move into the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, go ahead.
I am going to abstain on public hearing item A. Just wanted to let the commission know that.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll start it with the public hearing. Start out. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of proposed vacation of blocked off and unused portions of Appian Way in Park East Ranchettes, subdivision of Natrona County, Resolution 18-25, vacating portions of Appian Way, a public road in the Park East Ranchettes subdivision of Natrona County, Wyoming. The hearing will now be conducted in accordance with state statutes rule and the Natrona County Commissioners and other applicable laws. Do we have a staff report?
We do, thank you. And I had emailed you all, I believe, earlier this week with the draft resolution. And the reason it's a draft is because I know sometimes changes take place or stipulations are put on. And in particular, Commissioner North did have a change. So a petition for application was filed in 2024. All the appropriate resolutions, and this is in the draft resolution, if you want all the dates. Everything, the viewer's report was received, the oath, affidavit. I did the law office's affidavit as well. And I did not, and I sent an email out. No one that I'm aware of received any objections for claims or damages in writing. And I do believe Mr. Hegler's here, and I did ensure that Mr. Maryhugh knew about this meeting. And that is what I have.
Okay. Just for clarification, my recommendations, and I can state them now, or I can state them at the end after the hearing, which would be your preference.
Possibly at the end, maybe some of the public has some good ideas or different thoughts. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And then I can take them all down
Okay.
and they can be voted on.
Okay. 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 At this point, I would ask individuals who wish to speak in opposition, in opposition of consideration of the proposed vacation. That's what I thought. Okay, I was just reading off here. Okay. At this point, I would like those individuals who'd like to speak in favor of consideration of the proposed vacation of blocked off and unused portions of Appian Way in Park East Ranchette subdivision, Natrona County, Resolution 18-25, vacation portion of Appian Way, a public road in the Park East Ranchette subdivision of Natrona County, Wyoming, to approach the lectern. Thank you. Michelle. Please state your name and address.
My name is Sean Merrihew. I live at 7289 Appian. I'm the one who proposed the vacation.
Okay.
I proposed the vacation because, one, the road is already dead-ended, but it doesn't seem to be an official dead end. It seems to be some sort of oddity, where most people, when they get a map of navigating the area, they end up on either side of the dead end that's already present. It seems traffic is unable to go through, but plenty of foot traffic and plenty of off-roaders tend to visit that dead end for various recreational reasons. In that way, it's become a little bit inconvenient for me, having people get lost on either side. I try and direct people where I can, but other people, they just seem to be down there for recreation. They have no interest in interacting with me in any way, despite greetings or anything like that. I've had off-roaders go on to the other lot in 7288, which I also own, without any knowledge of me, but obvious evidence of people having trespassed, people coming down, doing burnouts and ATVs, things like that. So I would rather make it an official dead end in one form or another, so that way people are aware there's no through access. And honestly, I'd rather have the road between my lots vacated as to not attract people there for their own recreational entertainment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the vacation of Appian Road? Please come to the lectern. Okay, anyone else in favor of speaking in favor of consideration of the proposed vacation of Appian Road? Please come forward. Okay, hearing none. At this time, I would ask individuals who wish to speak in opposition of consideration of the proposed vacation of blocked off and unused portions of Appian Way in the Park East Ranchette subdivision of Natrona County, Resolution 18-25, vacating portions of Appian Way, a public road in the Park East Ranchette subdivision of Natrona County, Wyoming, to approach the lectern. All those in favor, or all those in opposition of the consideration, please approach the lectern. For the last time, all those who are in opposition of consideration of the proposal, please approach the lectern. Okay, there being no more, speak on or against the consideration of the proposed vacation of the blocked off and unused portion of Appian Way in the Park East Ranchette subdivision in Natrona County, Resolution 18-25, vacating portions of Appian Way, a public road in the Park East Ranchette subdivision of Natrona County, Wyoming. I now declare the public hearing closed. Do we have any comments from the commissioners? I do have one, and this is what my recommendation would be, is with the closure of that road, because of the fire hazards that are associated out there in that area that we've had recently, that if we do vote to close that road off and abandon it, vacate it, that there be gates put in there for emergency services to get through, not for the general public, but that way if there is a fire or some other incident out there where they have to get through, that they don't come out and then have to turn around and go all the way back around or cut the fence somewhere else. That would be my recommendation. Well,
I would be amicable to that agreement. I could put in a gate there.
okay.
And those would be drop wire gates would be okay.
Yeah, drop wire gates are fine, but if, obviously people can see the other gates, just as long as it's a gate where they have access to get through there. It's easier to lock up regular gates than it is sometimes with the others. I mean, they all have master keys on their fire trucks, so.
So I want to make sure that he agrees to that.
Without any further details at the moment, it sounds like something I could work out. If you give me specific plans for it, I would be amicable to working with that sort of agreement, because that sounds reasonable.
I would have you work with the fire department, the county fire, to make sure that it's wide enough for their access of their equipment and follow their recommendations as far as what size gate needs to be put in there.
If you could give me a contact for that after the meeting,
I'll
I'd
be happy to do that. We'll be happy to share that information. So, we got any other comments? Okay, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we allow him to put a gate up as long as he gets it approved with the fire department.
Well, it'd be-
Oh, yeah. I put the gate in. I want to see that you get that done and that we vacate that dead end road. I move we do that.
You have a second?
Second the vacation.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried 3 aye votes. Okay. All right, we will now move on to the declaration of the public hearing open, consideration of notice of intent to adopt a resolution to establish uniform procedure, costs, charges, and for inspection, copying, and production of public records pursuant to the Wyoming Public Records Act. This hearing will be conducted in accordance to the state statute, rules of Natrona County Commission, and other applicable law. May we have a staff report?
Apologize, excuse me. The proposed resolution as well as the adoption of that resolution went out for public comment pursuant to WAPA. I have not received any public comments back. I take that back. There was a suggestion kind of through the grapevine that I heard that it was a little confusing if you paid for one CD was $6 or just for one request. That I did hear that. That's all I have on it. I don't believe Michelle received any either.
Okay. Commissioner Milne?
Recommendation, do you think we need to change that language on sub B?
I think either way, it's fine. Since we're here and there was a concern that it could be confusing, I would recommend perhaps it state $6 per request. But the problem with that is if a request is so big it takes 19 CDs or whatever they're DVDs, but then the flip side, if we don't have anything, then who knows? So I don't know that there's really a fabulous way to do that unless we want to get complicated with gigabytes or I don't know
Just
what all
pay
that is.
$6 per device.
Sure, that's fine. That's absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on that? Okay. At this time, I would ask any individuals that wish to speak in favor of the notice of intent to adopt a resolution to establish uniform procedures, costs, charges, and inspection, copying, and production public records pursuant to the Wyoming Public Records Act to approach the lectern. Anyone that wishes to speak in favor of that, please come to the lectern. For the last time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of that, please come to the lectern. Okay. Hearing none, at this time, I'd ask for those individuals that wish to speak against the opposition to the notice of intent to adopt a resolution to establish uniform procedures, costs, charges, and inspecting, copying, and production of public records pursuant of the Wyoming Public Records Act to approach the lectern? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to that? Okay, and for the last time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the lectern. Hearing none, I would take a motion for consideration for the adoption of a resolution of the establishment of uniform procedures, costs, and charges for the inspection, copy, and production of public records pursuant to the Wyoming Public Records Act. I now declare this public hearing closed. Do we have a
Commissioner
motion?
North, I apologize.
Okay,
I did want to mention that this policy and or resolution is coinciding with, I don't know if you want to call it debut or whatever IT calls debut of our new software, where everything is now online unless there's some exception. So this is coinciding with that. So hopefully the transition will be okay.
thank you. This time I'd entertain a motion.
And excuse me, make a motion to adopt resolution to establish uniform procedures, costs, and charges for inspecting, copying, production, of public records pursuant to the Wyoming Public Records Act, with changes to 1B, sub 1, or sub 2, sub B, third bullet point, to reference change of $6 per device or item, and also to 2, sub B, sub 2, sub C, with the same change.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mill, second by Commissioner Laird. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. All right, at this time, we'll move into public comment. Any public comment?
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Griffith. I live on Coates Road in Casper. And just a couple of things. After a few inquiries to the Office of State Lands and Investments, I did get verification last week that all of the leases that were set to expire in June and October have been, they've received applications, new applications for those, as is required for sand and gravel leases. Those are to be reapplied for every 2 years. And so over 3,200 acres of land on the north-facing slope of Casper Mountain. I do have an application now for leases to be reviewed at the June 5th meeting. And as you're aware, this is an area that is Mountain Residential 1, and that this board voted not too long ago to remove the condition for sand and gravel as an appropriate activity for that area. And I think that was initially based on the land use plan that identifies that area as fragile for water, and that's why it's limited to one residential structure per 10 acres because of that fragile water supply, and why mining also would not be appropriate. So I did want to let you know that we do have a request into the governor's office to have that meeting be considered to be moved to the Casper area. We have not received anything back on that yet, other than that they have received the request. And this board, I believe, has an interest in that as well, as do many other residents that live in Casper, obviously. And I don't know if you can aid in that process by also putting a request in, if you deem that appropriate or not, from this board So that request is coming from me now. If we could provide them with another request from the county commissioners to have that meeting moved to Casper. I also wanted to point out, one of our issues was that as adjacent landowners where our property could be affected, we believe we should have received notification. And had I not requested these, whether permits had been applied for again or leases had been applied for again, I don't think we would have received notice, but it doesn't matter that I didn't or that I apply or asked for it. No other adjacent homeowner has received any notice. And again, that meeting may be out by 2 weeks now. So I think that's yet another issue on top of the fact that it doesn't align with what the county has said was appropriate for that area. So I know a lot of people are writing, emailing the governor's office by happenstance. You may be getting some too, I don't know. But I do know that the calls and emails are going to the governor's office and to the new OSLI director, Stacia Berry. So, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
I had a question. Karen.
Yes.
So, first time around, you didn't get proper notice, right?
Right.
So now that he's filing a renewal petition, I wonder if that affects that claim, if they've given proper notice for the upcoming hearing.
And I don't know. I think that's probably a legal question. I do know that the sand and gravel, they do identify that those leases have to be reapplied for as though they're, at least that's what I was told, as though they're new leases. And so I would assume in hearing that the same rules would apply. But I don't know that.
Which may mean that the old claim isn't valid any longer. Did you think about that?
Yes, we have.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I would like to see the hearing here in Natrona County. They should, you'd think the governor would do that just out of the fact that it affects this county, and it will make it easier for, 5 people to travel up here than 300 to go down to Cheyenne.
And I'm sorry to, Commissioner, that they did state that. I know when they were here last April that I believe they took a lot of pride in the fact that they knew there was a lot of interest and they were able to have the constituents have an opportunity to have a voice at that point by being there. And I think that's
Called any
relevant
members of the board and asked them to do it face to face?
to, I'm sorry,
Bring the meeting up here.
that's what we've been doing.
Did you call them and
Yeah.
ask them?
I will.
Good. Emails are one thing, personal phone calls another thing.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Any other public comment? Okay, if we don't have any other public comment, we'll move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Milne.
Yeah, I only have one thing real quick. I want to bring to people's attention if they hear it out there or whatever. But the Steamboat Fund is active right now and taking applications. This is the fund for students, either homeschooled or private school students, to receive funding from the state for the parents to receive that so that they can have the tuition for their education, their chosen education, rather than going through the public system. So if you're going to do that, then you need to get that application in. It's first come, first serve.
Commissioner Nicolason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week I was at portion of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association meeting in Lander. In Oil City News, I think it was Today, yeah. There's an article that says Wyoming lawmakers go after funding for state associations that sometimes oppose their bills. It appears that the Freedom Caucus is trying to, I think, attack one of the most valuable resources to the people of Natrona County and citizens across the state of Wyoming. What the County Commissioners Association does, it does a couple things. It lobbies and it focuses not on social issues that, a lot of people have different opinions on, and maybe a lot of people in Wyoming have the same opinion on, but it really focuses on issues that impact counties from a fiscal perspective, so taxpayer dollars, and it also really focuses in on local control issues, and the idea is that local control is better than state control or federal control. So it spends its lobbying efforts in those respects, but it also provides, I think, excellent educational opportunities for new commissioners and existing commissioners, and networking opportunities so that we can see what mistakes other counties have made and what successes they've had, and learn from their experiences. And I think it's invaluable for us to be able to get together 3 times a year to compare notes and to chat with one another, and exchange ideas. And I think that serves Natrona County citizens extraordinarily well. We also network with some of the best companies that do business in Wyoming, whether those are investment professionals, some of whom help us with our investments, or large equipment dealers, pipeline companies. So it's really good. Those companies impact in a positive way our community and our state, and it's good to know those people. So if you hear about legislation, and I think it's going to come up in a committee later this summer, if you hear about, well, we want to go after these associations because it's not a good use of taxpayer dollars, I totally disagree. I think it's about the best value that we could possibly get in the few dollars that we spend a year going to Wyoming County Commissioners Association for the good work it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Coates?
So to kind of jump off of that, some thoughts I've had lately about this, just the state of politics. So politics, by their nature, are social and invite discourse in a fragmentary manner. Each politician has, to some sense, an implied duty, which involves constructing a social persona that aligns with a majority or a perceived majority. At times, the majority aligns left, and at times it aligns right. But as politicians settle into their public-facing personality, he or she risks an uncontrolled slide into topic possession, which could not only define their policy, but also their outlook as an individual. I think in some respects, this is what we have happening within our legislature, for right or for wrong. On the other side of things, since my election, the goal of this commission has generally been in support of the county and its best interests. Yes, we've had points of disagreements, but today we made great progress as a commission in support of the public and recognizing 20,000 signatures. On the budget front, I appreciate every elected, every board, and every department head and all their efforts in preparing the outlay of costs of service to the county. Finally, thanks Carolyn for the update, and Terry, it's always good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Laird?
I would like to adopt the commission to adopt a policy that when we have to take a vote that affects the public, that we listen to them prior to taking the vote. So that it's very clear, we give them the right to give their input to us, and then consider what they've said to us in our voting. I feel I personally work for the people in Natrona County. They pay my salary through their tax money. And they come in here and I think it's important that they be heard, every word. And I don't want to have them thinking we vote on things without first putting it out there for them to comment on. Now, there are some things that we have to discuss by law in an executive session. And I agree with our new acting county attorney that some of those executive sessions may be overused. And so I would like to have the public hear more about things than less. Thank you.
Just want to remind everybody that the long-term homeowner application is due by next Monday. Our assessor did say that she would extend that until Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. If you haven't gotten your application in, that you need to get that in soon. So if you didn't, don't blame us. We just warned you again. I do appreciate all the work that not only our department heads, the elected officials, and our outside boards putting together their budget requests this year. We've got a lot of things that are coming up before us. Right now, we don't know what the final numbers are going to be. There are going to be some serious downturns in our revenue, and we just don't know exactly what those numbers are going to be yet. So we do appreciate that. We look forward to working with all of our different departments and elected officials and everybody else to try to minimize what those changes in revenues are going to do. But I do appreciate that. I do appreciate Carolyn coming in and bringing that up as far as those requests to be sent back in for the lease agreements. We agree with you. I mean, the fact that that is a sensitive area in our county, that I'm a firm believer that we need to have input on that. And we need to work with our legislators to make sure that they change the state laws that say that if they're in an area that the county commissioners believe are a sensitive area, that we ought to have input before any leases are put out there. I did speak with Governor Gordon last week, and he agreed with that. The problem is that there were so many things going on this last legislative session. They had a difficult time getting everybody on the same page as far as moving that forward. But I do believe that that's the pathway that we need to take, and we just need to work on getting that taken care of, so that not just in Natrona County, but across the state, we have a lot of valuable areas that are close to municipalities. And I'm not saying that the county commissioners need to be able to sit there and tell the state what they can and can't do on every state lease. That's not where I'm going at all on that. But there are sensitive areas that we should have some input on that. And I believe that's important. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.